See, it glitched. I told you. Hello and welcome. This is Tracie, and we're using Skype, and it is Mercury retrograde. So I'm just going to make an announcement right at the beginning of our podcast, Crystal, that I am not responsible for the gods of communication and electronics. We're going to do the best we can. I did a full podcast on Monday, and none of it recorded, and it clearly stated on the app that it was recording. So welcome. Today I am interviewing Miss CRYSTAL Lavender. Hello and welcome in. So grateful to have you here. And CRYSTAL is definitely a light worker, and I know personally because she at one point was a client and now is a very dear friend, that she does resonate with being a divine feminine, and it was part of her path to her awakening. And she wanted to come on today to share with us her own personal journey and experience. And, her experience, everybody's experience that comes on for the podcast is very different. But your particular journey was a very, very dark and hard one. And I am so proud of how you took that energy. You literally created alchemy. You took something very bad and turned it into gold. And so I'm hoping that this podcast will touch people who need to hear it, and perhaps you can be that voice and guidance for others who have struggled in the areas that you've struggled in. So I'm going to turn the platform over to you. Welcome, CRYSTAL. And just tell us a little bit in your own words and just channel. A lot of people, they're like, are you going to ask me questions? Is it going to, do I have to prepare? And I'm like, no, I want you to be mask free. I just want you to show up in your truest and most authentic self. And don't worry about, whether you say something stupid or stick your foot in your mouth, because everything is very divinely channeled. And I would like it to be just authentic. So just tell us whatever your heart feels like the right thing to start with, and then just follow through to where you are today.
So you started off pretty rough. And I grew up in with a lot of trauma, like most of us humans do. We all experience some sort of trauma. I was abused in my early childhood, sexually abused in my early childhood, which created a lot of like boundaries. Like I had a problem with setting boundaries because of my lack of the ability to say no when I was little, and it kind of carried on into my adulthood. And I had a very, very angry inner child. Like my inner child was super angry. She felt very much taken advantage of, like she had no voice, and through my teenage years, I was living in Las Vegas, and I ended up being homeless in Las Vegas. I was a drug addict by the time I was 13. I was in drug rehabilitation by the time I was 14. I ditched my entire freshman year, half my sophomore year. I got kicked out my junior year. My mom was a single mother raising me and my little brother. Like we lived in a studio bedroom apartment where me and my little brother, like me and my mom shared a bed, and my little brother slept on the floor. And my next door neighbors were, crackheads and prostitutes. She was always trying to get me in the game. We called her Mama. She always gave me these sequin belly shirts, and like introduced me to older men. And I had a pretty troubled life through most of my childhood and all the way up until my adulthood. Um, I experienced over a 20-year drug and alcohol addiction, at one point or the other. Like it was either drugs or it was alcohol. And when I was drinking alcohol, I was like, well, at least I'm not using drugs, so it's like it gave me this weird excuse. And I found myself just miserable, completely surrounded by misery. Not only was I miserable inside myself, I was miserable outside of myself, and everything around me reflected that. you know um I grew up pretty rough. It was a pretty rough childhood. Like I took off hitchhiking, and hopping trains. Like I used to hitchhike and hop trains all around America, which I actually learned a lot about spirituality while I was on the road. I traveled with the Rainbow Family, and it's like this world's largest non-member non-organization. It's like a bunch of people that gather in the forest for a couple weeks at a time, and all the food is free, and it's like a paradise for outcasts, where outcasts can go and join together and be one with nature. And it didn't matter what color, what religion, what class, what nationality, like everybody's welcome to a rainbow gathering. And all the food is free, so everything that you need is provided for you. So I learned pretty early on about everything I need is provided for me. Like that was one of the things that was a staple in my mindset. Like everything I need is provided for me, even in my roughest areas of life. Like that still rang to be true. you know
Right.
um I started my ascension journey, about what, 2018. Um, I was in a relationship, a very toxic relationship, which I ended up learning a lot about myself through that relationship. But um, I was really hard into drugs. I was doing drugs to be with that person, that person was doing drugs. So of course I fell into what they were doing because I wanted them to be open and honest with me. And it turned into this whole other thing. Like I hit a pipe for one day and it ended up being for 5 years. And through that process, um, I had people living in my house. Like there was constantly people in my house. I didn't know how to say no to them, you know. And then I started learning about the law of attraction. Like I found the YouTube channels online and started watching tarot cards on YouTube, and started learning about law of attraction and like manifestation. And um, once I opened the realm for being a star seed, like everything just kind of clicked into place. It was it was it was crazy how like all the synchronicities had led me to that point. At one point I'd owned a tattoo shop, and my tattoo shop was called Sin Eaters. And a sin eater was actually a term used during the plague, where they had doctors that would, not the doctors, but they would hire a degenerate in town, and they would wear these big masks, and they would pay them in beer and bread to eat the sins of the deceased person so that they could get into heaven. And to me that just struck a chord with me, because my tattoo shop was named Sin Eaters, and that's pretty much what a starseed's mission is to kind of come and eat the sins of the planet so that we can raise the collective consciousness. And all of these things just started clicking into place. Like I just had all of these major downloads about how everything in my life had brought me to the awareness of being a starseed, of a light worker, of a twin flame. And the person that I was with at that time, I was convinced was my twin flame. It checked off all of the boxes checked off, except for we didn't look like each other. He had different colored eyes and had different facial features than I did, but I was convinced that this person was my twin flame. And it was it was crazy how intoxicatingly, like, even though it was so toxic, it was intoxicating. Like I would actually go through withdrawal, from not having his energy around me. Like I would put up with anything that he did because I had it in my mind that he was my twin flame. So I put up with a lot a lot of disrespect, a lot of, not only disrespect from him, but disrespecting myself. And I let a lot of things slide because I had attached this label to it.
Right.
And we were in the middle of a very heated argument. I mean, he had a third party. He had convinced me that she was just his friend. Of course, just friends. And he had convinced her that I was just his crazy roommate that was convinced that we were together. And I ended up going to jail for domestic violence. And But that situation taught me a lot. I mean, if I hadn't have been in that situation, like I never would have known that I was tough enough to, like, taking a punch was nothing, because I was terrified. Like, before I met him, I spent about 5 years like locked in my room, almost like agoraphobic, because I had experienced some major trauma with one of the guys that I was dealing with. Like, not only was I a sexual abuse survivor, but I ended up dating somebody that was doing inappropriate things with his child. And that reality, like, it was the hardest reality that I ever had to face ever. And in turn, it created a lot of enemies. Like, I had never had enemies before. So I'd never been punched in the face. And I was constantly terrified of anybody that walked around the corner, because his whole family was after me. I turned him in, and his whole family was after me, saying that I was just, some crazy ex-girlfriend. And like, that experience, like, tore my soul apart. Like,
Can I ask a question real quick? Is this the person that was doing this to a child, is this the person you thought was your twin?
No, this
Oh,
was
okay.
before I had met my twin, or met who I thought was my twin.
Okay.
Like, this was before I started getting back into drugs. And like, that's kind of what spiraled me downwards to, a point of, like, I didn't I didn't love myself. I didn't love anybody. I hated the universe. Like, I was so angry that not only did, I experience those things as a child, but then I ended up falling in love with somebody that was doing those things to his child. And I had so much anger inside of me, and I spewed venom on anyone and anything around me. It's like, before that experience, I was, like, I still had like this light in me, and I felt like nothing really bothered me. But then after that experience, I was like, just completely, it's like it tore my soul apart, you know. And I constantly had all these, well, what if I did this? Well, what if I did that? Well, what if I did this? Well, what if I did that? Well, what if you're wrong? Well, what if you're wrong? What if you're wrong? Well, what if
Right.
you're right? And I kept hearing these voices in my head. Well, what if you're right, Crystal? What about the children? What did your mom do? What did your mom's mom do? Like, what are you going to do, Crystal? And it really made me understand and have a lot more empathy for my mother, you know,
Right.
for all of the mothers out there that had experienced this and didn't know what to do. Like, it
Right.
was the hardest thing I have ever had to face, was to face the reality that somebody I loved was doing these things to his child, you
Right.
know? And it made me understand, like, how difficult it really was to face that reality. Like,
Right.
not only did I have to face that reality, I had to face the consequences that came with that reality, and it completely gave me a new perspective of how difficult that really, really is. I always had this idea that, oh yeah, I'm just some big badass. I can, if I ever found somebody doing that, I would just cut off his penis, or, do this or do that, But then when I found myself in that position, it was horrible. I had no idea if, I mean, they're some of the best, like predators are some of the best liars on the planet, so he had me convinced that I was just crazy, that it was, all that I was just being triggered by the fact that he had a daughter and those things had happened to me.
Right.
And he used my abuse against me, and like, you want to talk about some gaslighting, like lighting people, like, those are some of the most gaslighting people. They're the most convincing liars, so it made me really feel like, well, what if I'm wrong? Am I just imagining these things, and I could see for generations, like, the mothers that had that same question, you
Right.
know and didn't know what to do, and didn't know how to face it, and didn't want to believe it, and how really difficult it really was to honestly face that reality. So it gave me a lot more empathy for the people that, for, like, my mom, like, well, why didn't my mom do anything, about my abuse when I was a child? So it gave me a huge understanding of that perspective, which a lot of us don't have that perspective. We only have our own perspective,
Exactly.
or we're hurt. We don't understand why nothing happened.
Right.
And so it gave me a lot more forgiveness and understanding, that the generations before me just weren't strong enough to face that reality, weren't strong enough, to really face that reality. Like, it was really, really tough to be like, okay, no, this is really happening,
Right. Well, and
and
hurt people.
yeah, for sure. Hurt people definitely hurt people, and heal people,
Right.
and for a long time I was really angry about that experience. Like, I was pissed at universe, God, whatever you want to call it. I was super, super angry about it, and my inner child was super angry. I couldn't believe that not only had this stuff happen to me, I was straight in victim mode. I was serious in victim mode. I didn't, I was like, all like, I don't care about anybody, nobody cares about me. And then once I pulled myself out of that situation is when I met who I thought was my twin flame at the time, which ended up being a catalyst just for me to know I was a twin flame. You
Right.
know, one of the last conversations that I had with him was, it doesn't matter, what you're doing or where you go. Like, all I know now is that I'm on fire.
Right.
It doesn't matter if you are my twin flame or a catalyst for me to know that I'm a twin flame. I know that I am,
Right.
and once I realized, like, that mission of being a star seed and being a twin flame, it put so much more healing on the experiences that I had from when I was a child all the way up into an adult.
Right.
Then I started internalizing, like, the process of having to do that, and what it took for me to transmute that energy. I was actually strong enough to do something that, for generations, like, my mom's mom didn't do it, my mom didn't do it, her mom didn't do it, you know
Right. Right.
so it started opening up the avenues of healing
Right.
of my inner child. And so when we got into a domestic violence, like, I was the perpetrator. Like, I almost ran him over with my van. I found out that he was really cheating on me, and, like, that he'd put his dead brother's name on the fact that he wasn't with this girl, and then I found out that he was, and I lost my shit. So I almost ran him over with my van, and I started, like, wailing on him, and he told me, he's like, you hit me one more time and I'm gonna F you up. Right. So, of course, I hit him a couple more times, and he punched me one time in the face and broke my nose. And then I ended up going to jail. But that experience taught me that I didn't have to be scared anymore, because I was so terrified to leave my house. I had never had enemies. I had never been punched in the face. I had never had any of those experiences happen to me. So it opened me up to be able to not be scared, like, even though it was horrible, and, like, I never should have done that, and he never should have done that. And I don't excuse my behavior. I don't excuse his behavior. I still learned so much about myself through those traumatic experiences that I was able to, like, okay, now I can leave my house. Like, they had diagnosed me with CPTSD, and I was on disability. Like, I was literally terrified, because the person that I had turned in, like, he pretty much, his whole family is, like, he's related to this whole town. And I had no idea who was coming around the corner or not coming around the corner. Like, I was in a band, and I quit my band. I quit going to work. Like, I owned my own tattoo shop, and I lost my tattoo shop. I quit my band. I just locked myself away in my house, and I was literally terrified. Like, my mom's ringtone would go off in her pocket, and it would make me cry. Like, I would be so startled. My startle reflex was ridiculous, So um, after all of that happened, I learned that I didn't have to be scared, that there was really nothing that anybody could do to me physically that I couldn't handle, that I had already, like, I figured I'd already been through the most traumatic experiences that I could be through. And I've survived them all, and have come out on top, and have learned how to transmute that energy. So once I learned about being a twin flame, it completely, like, opened the door for healing. It all made sense, that none of these things happened to me, that I was here because I'm a badass warrior, that to transmute that energy so that I can help others learn how to, you know, um, transmute the energy for themselves, so that I could heal all the inner children of the planet.
Right.
Like, my inner child was so angry, and I started doing work with healing my inner child. you know, like when I thought about her coming up to me as a young girl, running up and being like, what did we do with our life, you know, and just having to tell her all of this horrible stuff, it really bothered me, you know. So I had to find a way to take all of that I had been through and be able to be like, look, we did this and this and this, but this is what we did with it, you know. So oh no, I'm just talking.
No, that's beautiful. So I'd like to get you back to, okay, so you had a catalyst. Have you yet truly met your twin flame, or are you feeling like that's yet to be discovered on your journey?
Well, I really believed that I met my twin flame. Like I really, like, if the universe has no choice but to deliver you what it is that you believe, then I really believed that there was a person out there that was my twin flame, you know. And if it's a catalyst or not, like the label one, like I tried to take the label off of it and just enjoy the experience, you know. Like the person that I really believed was my twin flame, like when I started my job, all the people, like my night shift people are named the same name. Everybody that I would run into would be the same name. You know, his place was like I looked up how far away he was from me one time, and it was 1 hour or 11 hours and 1 minute. You know, like why the 1 minute? You know, then like they would move and I would look it up, and then the mileage would be my street address. You know, I could take my face and put it over the top of his face at one point, and it was like aligned perfectly. Like there was so much. I mean, I even rear-ended a car one time thinking that I saw this person, and it drove me absolutely insane. You know, the what is this question, like this burning what is this connection question, like drove me insane. Like I was driving myself insane with it, you know. And it wasn't so much about oh my God, I have to be with them, you know. Because number one, if you're on a godly mission, like if you're like, then that's what I really believe that twin flames are, is like
Me
we're
too.
like divine lab partners, you know, like we're sent
Exactly.
here with like this homework that we have to get done. It's like this project that you have this partner with that you're supposed to get done. And I wanted to make sure that I got the best grade that I could get, you know.
Right.
So that's kind of really how I viewed it, you know. But it didn't make me go any less crazy, you know. And
Right.
um like God's not going to give you someone else's man, number one,
Right.
especially if it's like a divine mission. You know, they're not going to give you, you're not going to be in a romantic relationship with someone else's man. And if you're pining for them to leave that person, or, you know, to dump her, and, you know, if you're hating on who you believe is this karmic of the person that you love, then that's not within the realm of unconditional love anyways, you
Right.
know. Like
Right.
I realized during my catalyst twin flame, my false twin, or whatever you want to call it, um, like I was hating on that girl that he was cheating on me with. Like I couldn't stand her. I couldn't stand to be around her. I didn't want to hear her name. Like I constantly wished that he would just pull his head out of his rear, and, you know, wake up to the fact that we were on this divine mission. And then I realized that I was hating on somebody that I loved, you know. And I realized that that was not within the realm of unconditional love as a starseed. You know,
Right.
if we're a starseed and we're here to spread unconditional love to the ley lines of the planet, how is hating on somebody within that realm? So I
Exactly.
actually ended up moving them both into my house, you know, which was a very crazy experience. Like, you know, my dad died right around the same time, and I had both of these people, you know, this person that I thought was my twin flame living in my house with this girl that, you know, he loved. And I knew if I said one wrong word, it was just going to be a catastrophic, you know, events were going to happen. So I tried really hard to watch my mouth and to keep my mouth shut. And one day we were on our way to go get her stuff from her house, and I pulled over and stopped at the little metaphysical shop downtown in my town, you know. And once I walked in that door of that metaphysical shop, like I just started bawling my eyes out, like sobbing so hard I could not breathe. And that poor lady, like, she was like looking at me like, you know, what do I do? You know, but her little dog, she had this little dog. And she kept trying to get to me, kept trying to get to me, you know, and she's like, oh, well, would you like to hold my dog? And I was like, well, yeah, of course, you know, like, so once I had the dog was like licking on my face, you know, and it's like, oh, I needed like a hug, like an unconditional love hug, you know,
Right.
and animals have that, you know.
Right.
And as I ended up sitting on the floor with this little dog in my lap, you know, just kind of collecting my thoughts and collecting myself. And some customers came in, and I heard her over talking to them about, they were like, well, what kind of stones do you put on your dog usually? And she was like, oh, well, Apache tear to kind of help absorb the energy, you know. She's like, but today I put a healer of healer stones on her, you know. And then once I heard her say that, I was like, oh, okay, like I'm a healer of healers. Like
Right.
it made complete sense. And then it was kind of like just one of those, like, oh, a receipt from the universe, you know. Like
Right.
synchronicity are so strange because they're so tailored to us, you know. Like
Exactly.
how special are we to the universe that when the universe sends, or God sends messages to us, it's specific for
Right.
us to understand. I mean, you could try to explain some, like, oh yeah, I was talking to myself in my head and then the song over here answered me, you know, like you sound like you're batshit crazy,
Right.
but it
Right.
makes complete sense because it's between you and the universe, you know.
Right.
So I
Yeah,
had
no,
a lot
I
of that
totally
going
get
on.
that. You know, I wish I had journaled signs and synchronicities, just the signs and synchronicities, you know, because I mean, it's crazy. Like you ask a question to the universe and it just comes in and you're like, "Oh my God." You know, there it is. And you know, you talked about your twin's name being everywhere. You know, it was like everybody you worked with. I remember
Everywhere.
yeah, everywhere. Literally, like I have a bingo game and the letters come up, right, for bingo. And it, for the longest time, it was the first three letters that would come up on my bingo every single time. And I was like, what is up with that? Or I would, you know, see it on a billboard, or I'd see it as a call number for a radio station. And I'll never forget when I got angry once and I asked the universe, I'm like, is this even my twin? Am I just totally crazy? I need a sign. Should I just like disengage with this person? Is it toxic? Is it just, you know, a lesson? Because if it is, I'm here to learn it, show it to me and let me disconnect. And so I asked for a sign, and it wasn't even probably 20 minutes later, I'm driving along and my radio goes, you know, scattered, like, you know, I couldn't pick anything up. I lost all signals. And so I hit the search button because I had a long drive and I had worked all day. I'd done like 35 readings and I was exhausted and I didn't want to fall asleep. So I'm trying to find music on the radio. I hit the search button, it goes brum, 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 and then finally it hits a song, a station. It was like a 50s channel, which I don't even know 50s music. That's way before my time. And the song was I'll Always Be Blank's Girl. And the name was who I believed was my twin. And so it was the validation that, yes, this is your twin. But I agree with you. I know that there's so much data out there in the world that, you know, this is a romantic connection, that the two of you are supposed to fall in love and get married and have children and blah blah blah. And I just, that hasn't been my personal experience. And I am a twin flame ascension coach. I help other twin flames, and it really hasn't been their experience either. But the union that has happened, and I see happening for all of my clients, is the union within, with their own masculine and feminine attributes, where, you know, if they were unable to embrace in a balanced way their masculine energy of standing up for themselves, or having clear boundaries, or making decisions and taking actions toward their own happiness, their own goals, their own personal path and healing, then they were alchemizing their masculine, right? or if they were stuck in maybe an overly masculine where everything was fight, 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 and you know, no allowance, no trusting of the intuition. And we are all of that, whether we resonate with being a divine feminine archetype or the divine masculine. We have both within us in this journey that we go on with this other person. I don't know about you, but they were hardly ever in my life. It wasn't a physical thing. It was all energy. It was mental, like their energy.
Spiritual and mental.
Exactly. It was like, you know, I know that you read about twin flames and they talk about, well, this person. Well, the person, for me personally, was somebody I met when I was 12, grew up with, dated, and they've been in and out of my life for 43 years. But it always seemed to be that that person came into my life right when I was about to have the biggest growth spurt I've ever had. And they would be a catalyst for that. And then once I achieved that, it was like we'd go back into separation. And it never felt like it was ever supposed to be a physical union. Maybe, I mean, God knows, maybe we'll end up in the same nursing home in our 80s or something. I don't know. But right now, I'm just creating my happiest life, and I'm in love and I'm happy, and it's not with the person I believe is my twin. And I've even asked myself, well, was that my catalyst? Was that like a false twin? And this guy's my real twin? And I'm like, well, this guy is like a high level soulmate. He is everything I want. He's not my mirror. He doesn't mirror back to me my trauma. He doesn't mirror back to me my lack. He doesn't mirror back to me the places that I was like my shadow, what I was afraid to face when I looked in that mirror. The other person was. So I'm not sure a twin flame is really for everybody, maybe for some. The physical person that you're supposed to create your life with, but I think they are absolutely the fifth dimensional person that that like you said, a lab partner, somebody whose soul, and I think it's karmic in nature, because I have past life recalls of times where we incarnated together and were in a physical union and created negative karma together through abandonment or through you know, one would go to war and leave the other one behind or whatever. And so I think that, you know, during this ascension where we are literally creating a new world, creating I mean, it's not like we're creating a new earth, but we're creating a new energy on earth. Right. Hurt people, heal people, heal people. And I believe that these are two souls, maybe one soul split into two experiences. This is me and this is me, but this is the me that I resonate with, and this is the me that I've forgotten.
See, for a long time, I thought that I was acting in my divine masculine, you know, because I was very tomboy, and what better way to heal all the ancestral karma than to be born in a woman's body as a masculine energy, you
Right.
know? So I really had to focus on my divine feminine aspects, you know, in order to unite them, because I mean all the boyfriends that I had before had to try to out me, you know. They're like, well, just let me be the man, you know, but I had a lot of that masculine energy, you
Right.
know. And once I thought about it, kind of tried to understand where that was in my perspective and my awareness and how that fit into my mission, I realized that maybe there's a lot of women out there who are divine feminine. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that we're lesbian or anything like that, but we have a very strong masculine energy about us. And I think that is the best way to heal all of our ancestral karma, is to be a woman in a man's body. I think there's a lot of men out there that are actually have a lot more of the divine feminine features and aspects to them, you know, and that's to heal the ancestral karma throughout the lineage of our lives, you know. because what better way to do that than to be a woman? What better way to heal the male version than to be a male, you know? So I think that a lot of us are, like, I had to really, really hone in on my divine feminine aspects, because I felt like I was very much in my divine masculine.
Yeah. So
And
for
I
me
had to see that
personally,
in the men around me. You know, I've seen that in a lot of the men around me, that they are very actually divine feminine, you know, in a masculine body, you know, and they're trying to heal that within themselves. And I've seen it in my son. I've seen it in some of my best friends. You know, I've seen it in a lot of the male. Even though I mean, and I'm not saying that they're gay. It doesn't make you gay. It doesn't make, and there's nothing wrong with that either. But I just believe that that energy is so prominent to try to help heal our past karma, our lives, you know?
right? Well, when you look at, so for me personally, I I was the runner and the chaser on this journey. Like there were times where I was the one that was in my distorted masculine energy of my way or the highway. I'm basically in the masculine energy of making the decisions, making the choices, and I ran, right? I was like, no, I don't want to deal with my emotions. I don't want to deal with you. I don't want to face this, that, or the other thing. And so I became that distorted masculine where I can handle this. I can do this with, without, or in spite of anybody else. I'm the boss, right? And
Mm.
then there were times where, and then I would be victimized, literally, because I've been sexually victimized. I've been ostracized. You know, I was in a previous lifetime. I believe I've incarnated many times as a healer and a spiritual oracle, you know, a psychic oracle. And I believe there were lifetimes where I was actually killed for that, right? Um, Burned at the stake or drowned or whatever. But I I also had the distorted feminine at times in my life where I was the victim, where I was the people pleaser, where I was codependent, where I was needy, and you know, when you fell into your distorted feminine was when you fell into your psychosis, when you were like, I can't leave the house, I can't trust the world, I can't. So that's distorted feminine, right? So even though you may, you know, feel masculine at times in your life, there's also times where you were the distorted feminine. And so I think that we choose a lifetime where we incarnate into both archetypes, and we, that lab partner becomes, when you look in that mirror, you're not really seeing them, they're just reflecting back to you.
Yep.
And so they are you and you are them, and it's like they're the matrix twin. They really don't exist, because the matrix is, you know, we create our external experience through our internal experience. And so it's not that they don't exist, but you know what I mean, in a spiritual sense, when we meet them and interact with them. So if you have a fear of abandonment, guess what they'll do? They'll
Abandon.
abandon you. Right. If you have a fear of commitment, guess what they'll do? They'll demand that you commit to them. If you have a fear of infidelity, they'll cheat all day, every day on you. If you have a fear of being ghosted, they will ghost you. It's like it, and it doesn't mean that they're a bad person. They're just reflecting back to you your deepest fears and showing you how to become strong enough, because there's the attraction right there. Law of attraction is you can't run from it, right? There's other
Can't.
relationships that there's karmic relationships that mirror to us those fears, the same as our twin, but the difference is we are so divinely in love and obsessed with the twin that we can't run from that fear. We can't get away from it, because no matter how far we go, no matter how far we bury our
Right.
head in the sand, they're right there in our energy, not maybe in our proximity, but in our energy. And they're always there to reflect back to us. You can't get away from it.
There's
Or
been
I
times
can.
I've been angry about it. I've like angry, you know, why do I think about this person? Like, this is ridiculous. There's no point in it. Like, why do I always think about it? You know, and then there's times that like I'm super happy about, you know, like you living in this weird fantasy, you know, like at first it was a weird fantasy and I was totally engulfed in the like it brought out this childlike sense of wonderment, you know, like wow, like God's real, this is real, you know, like
Right,
it really made me come closer to God, you know, in
right,
general. And it opened up this like wonderment of like of excitement and awe and just fascination, you know. And then I got angry about it. Like, why won't it leave my mind? Like I can't, you know, I mean, I literally rear-ended somebody thinking that I saw this person, you know. And even though it was completely improbable, it wasn't impossible, you know. And my logical mind is like, no, that's completely improbable. There's no way, you know, but my spiritual self was still like, oh, is that them? It's like I seen them in every single person that I was around, you know, in
right,
every aspect of my everyday life. Like they were part of every aspect of my life. And then I had the anger part about it, and then I got to acceptance. Like it, like
love,
I accept it and I love it, and I love it unconditionally, you know, like
right,
it doesn't matter what they're doing, or you know, like I was like, it's it we focus so much on like what our twin is doing, you know, and the desire to want to have union with them, that we forget about our mission. You know,
right,
if you're an honest, true twin flame, you have a godly mission, you know.
exactly,
And I think that's a lot of things that like that's a huge aspect that a lot of people out there like ignore completely. And if you just take yourself out of the whole human aspect of it and put yourself into the spiritual, you know, like mission part of it, then you can see it as a bigger picture, you know. And then it
right,
becomes a lot less weight, like there's a lot less weight about the thoughts of it, you know. It's more of like a, like when I think of them or I hear their name, or, you know, I talk about transferring to a different job and the manager at this other place is the same name. You know, the vendor comes into my store and they're a brand new vendor and they have the same name, you know, and it makes me laugh now. Like I just kind of giggle and, you know, send love out to the universe and love to the ley lines of the planet. It's like every time I hear that name now, I just send love to the ley lines of the planet, because that's really what I believe my mission is to send unconditional love to the ley lines of the planet to help lift the collective consciousness. So now I use it as a reminder to stay on mission rather than an obsessive like, what is this? Oh my God, you know, are they doing this? Are they you know, are they doing black magic on me? Or you know, what's going on here? Like there was, you know, there was all kinds of different crazy chaotic thoughts in the beginning, you know. And
yeah,
now I am at complete peace with, you know, with myself, with that experience, with, you know, now every time I hear that name or every time I think about them, then it just reminds me to send the love out to the vibration to the planet, you know. And that's made it a lot like like it helps me stay focused on mission.
right. Well, when I think of mine, I know mine lives in the same town, and you know, I send him love because I know that he is now going through the alchemy that I've already been through, and I see it. I mean, it's spirit shows it to me, um well, etherically, in my dream state, and you know, through social media there's actually validation, and I just send him love. I'm like, well, you know, you're on your own path, you're on your own journey. Having me as your twin is alchemizing you to balance out your own masculine and feminine. I send him love. I thank him for the journey. I'm like, you know, we'll always be connected, we'll always be friends. I've known him since I was 12, and I don't feel a desire for a physical union. I'm
Yeah,
happy. I'm in love. I'm um maybe there's a time where I think when I see him manifest his happiest, highest and best life, that's union for me. When the two of us can actually just do the healing we came here to do and create the life we came here to create and to be on mission, whether it's me and him together or me and him with other people, him on this place in the map or me on this place. really, it's all about the healing, and it's about stepping into purpose and mission, which I don't even know what his is. I know what mine is. I'm an oracle. I'm literally a channeler, and I work with the divine feminines. I mean, as many times as I've asked the universe to bring me divine masculines to help heal and put them on their path, it's all about the rise of the divine feminine. Every single client that shows up on my doorstep or in my awareness is a divine feminine. And so maybe in the future, I'm holding out, maybe the divine masculines will um, need an oracle, but they are the matrix twin. They're the lower chakras, and I think they get to their purpose through earthly endeavors, right? Not so much the etheric like we do. But I don't know, I'm on the journey. I'm like, as far as I'm concerned, I found my physical partner, whether it lasts for a month or 5 months or a season or forever. I don't live in the future anymore, and I don't live in the past. I live in today. It's like today, this is exactly where I'm meant to be, doing exactly what I'm meant to be doing, and I'm grateful for that. And I'll let tomorrow take care of itself, and I'll get in the damn boat, tuck in my arms and legs, and just trust in the divine plan. Because one thing we learn with the signs and synchronicities is that we can't get it wrong, because when we get it wrong, something comes in and literally just puts us right back on path. And it's kind of hard to get too far off your journey when you are a healer, because your purpose is, like you said, healer of healers. And it's funny, when you said that, something really clicked for me, a sign and synchronicity. I remember back in the beginning of my journey, because I was raised Christian, and I had a lot of dogma and a fear of persecution, right? Of allowing myself to authentically be the oracle without damnation, right? Without burning in hell for all of eternity. I started stepping into it little bit. And I went to Lilydale, New York, which is a spiritualist medium community. It's all mediums. And I was born a medium. I was always able to communicate and receive messages from the deceased. And so I went on this bus trip, and I went to the stump at Lilydale Assembly, and I was invited to be a guest medium, which scared the living bejesus out of me. And they kind of pushed me up there. I really didn't want to go, but I came on a bus full of psychic mediums, and I was amongst the psychic mediums, and they were old. I mean, they'd been doing years and years, and they pushed me up at the stump and made me read them. And so then there's one guy in particular, which I won't mention his name simply because I don't like to talk about people without their permission, right? But he's like in his late 70s, maybe 80s, and has been a medium his whole life. And I attended a lot of his classes and workshops and meditations on my own personal development. And he dubbed me the reader's reader, and said the healer's healer. It kind of put me back in that place where I didn't feel worthy of that title. I didn't feel like, who am I to be reading for these guys who have been doing this their whole life? But it was absolutely part of my path to realize that I am a powerful, conscious creator, and I'm good at what I do, and what I do well, and it's part of my mission. And so, spirit always brings us back. Even now, where I've landed isn't even close to where I'm headed. I mean, I know that there's so much more on this journey. We're not even close to creating the earth the way that we came here to, and we're just beginning these processes. But we are the leaders of the leaders, is what I believe. I feel like on my mission, I'm awakening other leaders, or spirits awakening them and guiding them to me to be a teacher or a mentor for them to step into their leadership role. And so what a privilege, right? What a yeah. So we're almost at an hour. I'd like you to talk a little bit now about what you've done with all of this energy and these lessons, and how are you using that on your mission?
So right now, I am a advocate for recovery. I am a recovered on purpose speaker. Like I found sobriety in February 14th of 2021, and haven't looked back since. I always knew that I was supposed to be some sort of teacher. Like I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to help. And I struggled with that because I was on drugs. Like, how are you supposed to be a teacher and be on drugs? So I figured I needed to change within myself so that I can help other people, find it for themselves, but I had to first do it myself, and I kind of struggled with that for a while until I found the law of attraction. And I literally used the law of attraction to, to find my sobriety. Like I kept telling myself, this is not what I do. Like, this is who I am. I am a spiritual teacher. I am here to help people. I am here to spread unconditional love to the ley lines of the planet. Not only did I quit using drugs that way, I also quit smoking cigarettes that way. Even as I was smoking a cigarette, I would tell myself, I don't smoke anymore. You don't smoke cigarettes, and I quit smoking cigarettes altogether. And I ended up writing a book. I wrote a book called Say You Love, and it is a testimony over the darkness of childhood sexual trauma and addiction. And I am a proud member of the Recovered on Purpose family. My friend Adam just randomly, there's no such thing as coincidence, but randomly ended up in my messenger. And through him doing that, like him being guided to me, like I ended up finding Recovered on Purpose. He is the founder of Recovered on Purpose. And I ended up taking a class about telling your story powerfully, being a powerful speaker. And now I am a coach. Through that course, I am a Recovered on Purpose, Tell Your Story Powerfully coach, and mentor. And I wrote a book for my 41st birthday and dedicated it to my inner child. And it's called Say You Love. And it is on Amazon. And I have a website. You could go to crystal-lavender.com and get a free download. And it goes through my journey of childhood to hitchhiking and some of the experiences that I had. It's not like a whole documentary or a biography of my life, because that book would have been way too long, because I swear I've lived like a million different lifetimes in this one lifetime. But now I am an advocate for recovery. I am a recovery coach, and I'm learning to get I'm getting my peer support specialist like certification. Like I'm working on getting that. And that's something that I never ever saw myself doing ever in a million years. I grew up with punk rockers and hitchhiked and was proud of being this drunk. I had dreadlocks. I had a mohawk at one point. Like something that I never ever saw myself doing. But the universe opened that door wide up for me, and I followed through with it. I wrote a book within 5 weeks just using my phone. Like I don't even have a computer. I did everything on my phone and got it published on Amazon for my 41st birthday, October 2nd. So
Did you use the self-publishing on Amazon? The what's it called? DIP or
KDP?
KDP. So I've made my journals through KDP. Never made any money off of them, but they're resources that I felt I wish I had in the beginning of my journey, and wish I had the common sense to use them, because, I created a twin flame journey journal. So you could write down, how spirit guided you through the twin flame journey. And I created a trigger journal, because for me personally, I had a lot of triggers that I had to face and figure out. I was kind of blind. I was operating from victimization. I didn't even know what my fears were. I didn't even know what my triggers were. I was just in constant fight or flight mode. And so I had to become aware of who I am. Exactly. I had to know me. I had to get to know me. And because I'm an empath and a psychic medium, I never knew where my energy ended and another's began. And so I was constantly taking on other people's energy and owning it and believing I was the one that was fucked
Mhm.
up. And really, it was just, I was an expression of the energies I was absorbing, and the maladies too. I had a lot of dis-ease in my body, and realized that, I was taking on the diseases of my mother, the diseases of my father, the diseases of my spouse. And, if they had a kidney stone, I'd get a kidney stone. If they had a toothache, I'd get a toothache. And so I created these journals where, for those who want to become aware of their triggers, then you can take it and carry it with you. And when you're out in the world and somebody or something triggers you, you write it down, and then you go home and you reflect on it. You ask yourself, why was I triggered? What emotions came up around that trigger? And where did those emotions first originate? Was it back in my childhood? Was it when I was in this, abusive relationship? Was it when and so I created these resources. There's like 6 or 7 of them, because I kind of wished I had utilized such a tool on my own journey. But they never really went anywhere. But I think it was just Spirit's way of showing me I am a powerful conscious creator. If I think it, I can create it. And so, there's lots of things I've created. I did a meditation, on YouTube, and I created a couple of decks, and it was just teaching me that you can do this. You can do anything if you're inspired, right? Inspiration is the the key. Like they say, necessity is the mother of all invention. So I like KDP. I mean, maybe we can give a little shout out to them for those out there that feel like they've got a book or a poem or a testimony inside of them and don't know how to go through a real publisher, or want to go through that arduous process.
Well, if anybody needs help with that, like I'm more than willing to help anybody that has questions about the process. Like I mean, I published my book in 5 weeks. I used a text or a talk to text on my phone and transferred it to a Word document, and then found my recovery coach gave me his publisher, because he published a book too. I mean, it was his testimony that helped save me, and then my testimony is helping save others, and then the chain reaction, like healed people heal people, and once you come out of the fire, you're supposed to reach back down and grab someone and help them pull them out of the pit, and I've already gotten a lot of feedback from people that can relate, not only from my addiction aspects of it, but from the sexual trauma that I received as a child, and that sit there in silence. They feel like they're all alone, and I believe that us sharing our testimonies powerfully and as authentic as we can. I mean, once you own everything that you've ever done, everything that you have ever been, everything that you've ever had happen to you, there's not anything that anybody can say to you that's going to take you off guard.
Right.
I don't have any dark secrets in my closet. Like I laid them all out. Like all of my dark secrets are laid out. I am an open book, literally. So
Right.
there's nothing that anybody can say to me that is like, oh, well, you did this. It's like, yep, I did that. I learned from that experience. Now I do this. That doesn't define who I am. Like that might have been a part of my process in my life, but that's not who I am. you know um I believe that there's no such thing as a mistake. Like the only mistakes we make in life are the ones that we don't learn from. If you honestly don't know something is wrong, like coming from victimhood, like that's why awareness is so key to our growth. I mean, because a lot of us aren't aware that we're in toxic relationships. We're not aware that, doing some F boys laundry at 2 o'clock in the morning is actually really disrespectful to ourselves. Like we think that they'll just love us more, like, oh, if I do all this for this person, then they should love me more. It's like we're trying to validate ourselves, and we go out of our way and we give and we give and we give, and then we're hurt, and then we just get hurt and more hurt and more hurt because we're not giving that love to ourselves,
Okay.
and the awareness, once you're aware of it, then you can start making the changes to make the growth that you need to make for your own evolution, your internal evolution. And but the only mistakes we make in life are the ones we don't learn from,
Right.
otherwise it's just a mistake. Like a mistake is a mistake. You'll have an opportunity to do it again. Okay,
Right.
so what did you learn? Are you going to do the same things over again? Are you going to repeat this cycle? And you'll keep touching that hot stove until you figure out that it's a hot stove. But
Right.
until you're aware of the fact that it's a hot stove, like, you can't beat yourself up for not knowing what you didn't know.
Exactly. Well, what do you think awakening is? I mean, once you know, you can't not know again. You can't go back to being asleep once you're awake. And so, I mean, that's in all aspects of life. And you so beautifully just kind of summed up my entire mission. It's like in that little mini rant you just did, you talked about, you felt alone. I was pushed to create this platform, this podcast, not to make money. I'm not looking to monetize it or make anything. It's mission based. And
Interesting.
hurt people, heal people. And you were able to make your test through your book, but guess what you just did today? For whoever clicks on this video and watches it, is you've also, laid your testimony out there for those that feel alone. How many people, light workers, spirit showed it to me like the globe with all these little lights all over it, some bright, some dim, some connected, some not. And I know on my journey, I didn't know any divine feminines. I didn't know any other twin flames. Everybody I talked to thought I was crazy. You're a nut job. Why would you be in love with somebody that just keeps abandoning you over and over and over again? Well, the truth of the matter is I was abandoning me.
Yep.
And they were the mirror to show me that I needed to stop abandoning me. Right. And the minute I stopped abandoning me, which by the way was distorted feminine energy, and stepped into the power of making the choices necessary in order to love myself and to create for myself masculine energy, that's divine masculine energy, right? And so we are alchemizing and healing the inner masculine and feminine through the external process. It's a physical process that happens in an internal way. And you are not alone. That's the whole theme. If I could write a theme song, I would just use Michael Jackson. You are not alone, because you're not. And they are everywhere. We are everywhere. And all of the we's of the world are awakening. And we're
And you're not
going through, yeah, and we're going through this alchemization. And in this alchemization and in internal healing process, we are becoming the lights. And from those lights, then we'll connect, and we'll connect the ley lines, like you said, the ley lines of the earth. We're regenerizing. It's like they show it to me like a generator amping up and feeding energy to the places on the planet, the ley lines of the planet that had grown weak and broken, and we're re-energizing. And then that changes collective energy, right?
Yep.
And so we are the leaders, but we are also, in our leading, we are creating bridges of connection for those who didn't come here in this lifetime to be the leader, but they came here to have the experience of awakening and creating change. It's kind of like, I spirit shows me my visions very weird. They use a lot of pop culture and music with me, and they show me the Disney, or I don't know if it's Disney, but anyhow, Ants, the movie Ants. How there was just a small amount of bullies that were running the entire ant community. And when the smaller ants, the worker ants, the ones that do all the work, the ones that make all the progress, when they saw that they were mighty, and could band together, then they could actually create for themselves and didn't need that handful of leaders. And so what my twin taught me is that I am a powerful conscious creator, and I don't need anybody external to me to validate my internal worthiness. It's like he showed me that by not showing up for me in the way that I had expected or had set expectations on, he actually showed me how to show up for myself. And so I did find union with my divine masculine.
All I know is that I want an A in this project.
You what?
I'm striving to get an A on my project.
Yep. Yeah.
So I gotta make sure I do.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. What was that?
So I gotta make sure I do my work. I gotta make sure I do my part. And I mean, if I'm focused about what my lab partner is doing, I'm not gonna get my work.
Well, exactly. But when the universe, because sometimes you can't avoid them, or at least I couldn't. Like I would move toward my mission. I'd focus on me, focus on me, focus on me. And then I'd be at a red light or something and he'd be there. And then next thing I know, he's texting me. And I learned that when the universe brings him back into the picture, it's to learn something. So then I'm automatically like, okay, show me what I need to know no matter what the cost. Show me what I need to know no matter what the cost. Why is he here? What is he here to teach? And I remind myself, when you look at him, he's just reflecting back to you something you're still missing. And what is that? And so I don't know if yours will ever, peek his little head back into your world somehow, or if you've already learned what you needed to learn from your lab partner. But I feel like mine is like, I don't know. He just, I don't know if now I'm supposed to be his mirror, maybe it's his turn. And I'm the one that's rejecting him. I'm the one that chose somebody else. I'm the one, which is part of his process of healing and realizing that, the girl that used to chase him is now not chasing anymore. She knows her value and she's moved on with her life. And now you got to deal with your end of it, right?
I disrespected myself so much just putting that twin flame label on something. Like I did things that I wouldn't normally do. I thought things that I wouldn't normally think. I acted in ways that I would have never expected myself to act, just because I had that label and that connection and that belief, And once I put a stop to that, like I stopped disrespecting myself for that label.
Right. Right.
And that changed the whole energy of what I was able to accomplish.
Right. Well, and I notice this with a lot of my clients, a lot of them, their circumstances are very different than mine. I mean, I know I have a divine mission, a divine purpose, and I know I would have never found it, not in a million trillion years, if it wasn't for that other person. But
me either.
I believe, well, I don't even know what I believe. The one thing I know, well, I do. I focus on myself, and even if he does reach out, I'm like, sorry, I love you. I know that we're soul partners. I know that, there's a purpose and reason for everything that happens now, happened in the past, or even might happen in the future, has a purpose toward the healing process. But now I reflect back to him. I'm like, you don't choose her. You don't choose me. You choose you. Who are you? What do you want in life? What is your purpose? Where do you want to expand and grow? Where have you been stuck giving, and not receiving? And how do you clean up your backyard? And so I'm what I am for everybody. I am that counselor, that coach, that oracle. I channel the energies. And so when he reaches out to me, I just put it right back in his palm and say, you don't need me to create this. All you need, you already have. You got the ruby slippers, are right on your feet, right? It's just time that you find them and start using them. And so I'm not 100% certain that my journey with my twin is over, because I feel like the mirror has switched, and now I'm the catalyst for him to look at the decisions he's made, the choices that he's currently making that aren't in alignment with the soul's purpose. But I don't seek it. I don't push it. I'm just there. It's like if he reaches out, I'm like, okay, well, why? Spirit, why is he reaching out? Why is this happening? And how do I show up in this in my balanced divine masculine, divine feminine way, without codependency, without projecting any outcome on it? Just what does he need? Why is he here? And how can I be that without sacrificing who I am, right? Without getting lost in his energy and just maintaining my own and teaching him, being his teacher on how he can be that for himself. It's like all about, you got to have that first union. That first union is you and you, your masculine, your feminine, and the divine. It's the Trinity, right? Mind, body, spirit, whatever you want to call it. Mother, maiden, crone, Father, Son, Holy Ghost. It's the well, we're building our Merkaba, right? Divine masculine is the downward Trinity, and divine feminine is the upward. And when the two come together, you've got that Merkaba of, and it is the law of attraction. Once you sit in the middle of your Merkaba, you can do anything. Instant manifestation, which you instantly ascend and you're no longer physical. I don't think that's what we're here to do. We're here to create and to teach others the law of attraction on how to become powerful, conscious creators, and to realize that hurt people and heal people, and to become the advocate for more healed people.
I believe that if we can change, if each one of us the world from within, we can change the entire world.
Exactly.
But it starts with each person and their awareness and knowing that they are conscious creators, believing that they are powerful beings, that things aren't happening to them, that we are actually creating these things in our lives with our own internal pains. We're always seeking some sort of outside solution for an internal problem, and it never ever will work like that. Like if we stop doing drugs because this person, or we stop drinking, or we stop, whatever we're addicted to, whether it be codependency or, alcohol, gambling, drugs, food, whatever it is. If we stop doing those things because we love someone else, well, what happens when that someone else is gone?
Exactly. Right. That's codependency. It's like I'm dependent on that other person's energy for my own healing. And that, what happens if that person dies? What happens if that person chooses another person? What happens if that person, goes out, wanders out into the world and gets lost? It's like,
then you're
external.
Right. I mean, if you stop doing these negative things for someone else, then it's never going to stick. But when you do these things for yourself, you'll always have yourself.
Right. Right. Well, and you have to be careful, because you can fall into distorted energy in the feminine or the masculine in even that thought. You can fall into the distortion of, I don't need anybody else. I've got this. And then instead of having healthy boundaries, you've built a wall. And so in flow, you have to be willing to give and receive. And if you are saying, well, I don't need anybody in my life or any external person to be part of the process, then you're also cutting yourself off from your soul tribe, from your external experience. So you got to find balance, even in the knowing that you're capable and powerful. You still got to be open to receive and know that you are not alone. There's the word. We both got it. You are not alone. Everybody, you are me and I am you, and it's that whole namaste, right? I recognize the divine in you is the same as the divine in me. And once I have that recognition, that is beautiful, right?
Right.
And so, you know, I've fallen into the distorted version of myself where I'm like, I don't need anybody to love me. I don't need anybody to make my money. I don't need anybody to lend me a hand or reach down into the fire and pull me up. That's my job. I do that for other people. Nobody else does that for me, because if I let somebody else do that for me, then I've failed. Somehow I've failed on my own personal mission, because now I'm not I'm not the needed, I'm the needy. And there's a balance in that. You know, it's like, hey, Crystal, I'm having a moment. Can you just reach down and pull me out of the fire? There's nothing wrong with that. Healed people heal people, you know? And so, but the thing is to know who your tribe is, to know who you can trust when you're in those positions, to absolutely be your ride and die, to have your back in a healthy, non-egotistical, well, I'll do this because then she'll owe me one, or then I can shine in the light, and Crystal, who's had all the you know, light shining on her, is now, you know, dimmed because I'm the one shining. That there's a very fine line between a balanced, harmonious masculine and feminine energy, where we're constantly recentering, recentering, recentering. And so, you know, it's very empowering to know that you succeed. It's very empowering to know that I've got the key to the kingdom. I've figured it out. But you have to be aware also that there are going to be times where you're humbled and you don't always have the answers, and you need to be open to receive and tell spirit, you know, show me what I need to know, no matter what the cost. If I'm needy, bring me what I need. Show me that I'm not, that I'm there's no shame in scratching one another's back. There's no shame in finding your tribe, in knowing that I'm not always going to be on top. There will be times when I am fallen from grace, and even in my own eyes, but there will be always that divine intervention that comes in and says, it's okay, we got you. You know, and then the physical, because that's non-physical, that's spirit, but spirit will bring a physical vessel in to help you when you need it. And the law of attraction states it so. It is. It is.
Everything I need will always be provided for me, and then
Right.
you know,
Right. And when I can be the provider, I will be the provider. And when I need a provider, I will be open to receive one.
and it is okay to not be okay sometimes.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Because if it wasn't, I'd be a hot mess.
I mean, a lot of us have this, we're the rock, you know. We can't fall apart. We can't not be okay because we have to be there for someone else. You know, all these people are pulling on our energy, they depend on us. They, you know, so we have a hard time as being a rock to not be okay and actually ask for help, because we feel like it's admitting defeat in some way. But in all actuality, it's a lot more strength to reach out, you know, and to admit to ourselves, like, hey, I'm not okay right now, and that's okay, you know,
Right.
and to tell the people, hey, I'm in this spot and I'm not doing so good, you know, and to be honest with ourselves, be honest with the people around us. Like, it takes a lot of strength to admit that we're not okay.
Right. Right. And like I said, when you find that alchemy between your distorted masculine, distorted feminine, and you bring them into that yoni, because spirit shows it to me as two overlapping circles, which is the Vesica Pisces. You have the negative and the positive, right? Which exist. They're very real in the matrix, in the world. But in the middle ground, when you can go through the middle ground, you're not in a negative charge or a positive charge, but you're embracing both, then you are literally in the divine womb of pure potential. From that place is, you know, it has, there's nothing there. It's a zero. It's nothing with the potential of becoming anything, right? And so being in a physical body, in a physical matrix, how do we become powerful conscious creators? We do that through binary code. zeros and ones, zeros and ones. You know, it's like you make a choice. And like you said, if it's a mistake, then you bring yourself back to center, you bring yourself back to the zero, and you choose a different one. And really becoming a true alchemist and a true manifester and a true, you know, you've got to have both. You got to have the divine feminine and the divine masculine in union energy in order to really be able to create from what is and what is possible.
And they say that nothing is automatically something because it's the nothing, right?
Exactly. Right. So it really is a puzzle, but it's a puzzle that is, it's like, once you find it, that's why you're enlightened, because now you understand that you may not always be in it, but you know how to find your way back to it.
Like having the awareness that I was in control of my emotions completely changed my life.
Right, right. Well, and don't be afraid also, because, you know, that's masculine energy, control, right? When you say control, that's masculine energy. But you gotta be in that balance where you're allowing the emotions to come in, validate them without judgment, allow yourself to experience them and have them, and then love them and just let them go. Don't hold on with that control.
If I'm in a bad mood nowadays, like just for no reason, even if there seemingly is a reason why I'm in a bad mood, I just own it. I'm like, hey, I'm in a bad mood. Does anybody else want to be in a bad mood with me? You know, we could just be grumpy together. Like, just be grumpy. I'm grumpy right now, and that's what I'm doing.
Right.
That's how I've learned is I vocalize it. Like, I'm in a bad mood. You know, why am I in a bad mood? Is it for no reason? You have a reason, you know? And if you have a reason, is the reason actually valid? And is being mad going to change anything about it? You know, or do you just want to be in a bad mood? I mean, and sometimes you just want to be in a bad mood, and that's perfectly okay.
Right. There's nothing wrong with that as long as you're not projecting it onto others and ruining their day, right? Just say, I really need to be alone right now because I'm in a bad mood.
Unless you want to be in a bad mood with me, then we could just be in bad moods together, you know?
Right, right. And without judgment, and persecution, just, you know, oh, you're in a bad mood, I'm in a bad mood, let's just go, you know, bust some shit. I don't know. You know? All right, well, we're going to have to end this. We're almost an hour and a half in. I'm so grateful that Skype lets you go beyond an hour. Is there, so I would like you to, again, because you mentioned it once, but I'd like you to do it nice and slow. Tell people what your web address is, your
My website to get a free
yes.
download of my book is at crystal-lavender.com. And you can get a free ebook version of Say You Love. My book is called Say You Love, SYL, by Crystal Lavender on Amazon. If you would like a signed copy, you could hit me up on Messenger.
Take that one.
I also have a YouTube page. I am Nacho Mama on YouTube.
Is it just Nacho Mama or is it Nacho Mama Tara?
It's Nacho Mama Tarot.
Okay.
And I'm Nacho Mama 719 on TikTok. I also have a recovery page, like a Say You Love Recovery on Facebook, um, where it's an open invite to all people, all colors, all forms of recovery, all religions, all nationalities. Like I just wanted it to be a safe space for any sort of recovery whatsoever. You know, there's a lot of division within the recovery programs. You know, oh well, you're just on weed, you know, or you just smoke cigarettes, or you're just recovering from food, or you're just, you know, like there's always like this division. So I wanted to make a space that was open to all forms of recovery, you know, and that was safe for all religions, all nationalities, like all classes, all people, you know. So that I have a Say You Love Recovery page on Facebook, and you can find my book on Amazon. Under Crystal Lavender, like Say You Love by Crystal Lavender. That is my real name. It's not like a stage name. That is my actual birth given name. Used to make jokes about how I was either born to be a hippie or a stripper. So, you know, I'm definitely not a stripper. I could drop it like it's hot, but I'm not getting back up. We'll just put it that way.
Right, right.
But
All right. So when we're done, I'm going to hit the stop record, because if you hang up before I hit stop record, the recording goes away. And same with me. So I'll hit stop record, and then you and I will get together to get all those links. And it usually takes me several hours to get the uploaded, and then I got to create my thumbnail, and I've got to get all the links, and yeah, it's a process, but I should have it up by this evening, or at least by tomorrow morning. And when we hang up, I'm going to ask you to text me in Facebook all of those links, so that I can just copy and paste them underneath the podcast. And I just, I really want to. By the way, I forgot to ask you, and I usually ask people during the podcast, how did you meet me? How were you drawn to me? Through what?
Through Rich.
Yeah, yeah. So, I do that because I want people to recognize it took me a long time to recognize when I channeled a message from Spirit that said, you're going to be an oracle for 3 waves of high-level soulmates, star seeds, and light workers. And you're going to go first, right? We're going to put you first, and then you're going to show others how to do it. I laughed. I was like 300 plus pounds. I was filled with disease. I was going through the dark night of the soul. I was I was just a mess. And I'm like, ha ha ha, you're funny, right? Who am I? Who am I that I could accomplish anything? And I literally would argue with these voices in my head. And I said, how will I find them? And they said, a young man will lead them to you. Well, compared to me, he is a young man. And so it always marvels me. It literally marvels me how he came into my awareness, how our journeys have kind of gone like this together. I even officiated him in his wife's wedding.
Yep.
And it's like almost without, well, there's probably just like a 20% that find me by accident. But the rest of them, every single time I say, how did you find me? I'll get a random email and say, listen, I heard about you and I'd really like to book a reading with you, or a deep dive, or whatever. Well, the first thing I say is, how did you find me? And almost without exception, it's Rich Law. And I'm like, there's the young man.
Yeah. My experience with Pop was life-changing. So
yeah.
We'll just sit there.
Yeah, mine too, to be honest. And I think
I couldn't be more thankful for him in my awareness in my life. Like,
right.
There's so much that I learned just from him being him.
Exactly. Well, he's got a big mission, and I think his mission is kind of somehow connected to mine. And it's funny, I was there for him when he needed to pull himself out of the fire, and then he's really been a catalyst for my mission. Like, my mission just keeps growing, and it's usually because of him. So it's just a crazy thing. But I always want to ask everybody in the podcast, how did you find me? And almost without, like I said, without exception, it's always Rich Law. Through his teachings, or his YouTube channel, or his podcast, or something that he, mentioned my name in, or did a collaboration with me, or just didn't know how to handle the situation of the person that asked for a reading. There's lots of people that hire him for a reading, and he's like, oh, this is Tracie's realm, I'll just pass the buck here, and he sends them to me, But I am so grateful that you and I have crossed each other's paths. I have watched you literally, like when we met, you were already in the process, but you were still far, far, far away from where you are today. And
you were such a star in my darkness. Like, I couldn't be more thankful for your friendship. Like, you've loved me throughout all of my crazy. You've loved me when I didn't love myself. And you have always just listened with an open ear and an open mind and an open heart. And I couldn't be more thankful for your involvement in my life, and especially in the point of my life that I was in, and up to now, for sure. Like, I've definitely grown a lot. I've definitely seen you grow a lot. It's been an amazing adventure.
hasn't it? I mean, when you say amazing, I mean like paranormally amazing. You know, abnormally, paranormally amazing to watch the process. And so I am just so grateful to be here, to be on this mission, to be, you know, when some people find me, I ask myself, wow, how will I ever be able to help this person? This person so far in their darkness. And then I just watch them like and it's not me, it's spirit. I don't take ownership of any of it. But you know, when you think about that lotus flower, how it starts down in the darkest, dirtiest, murkiest place and just keeps reaching for the light, just keeps reaching and reaching and reaching until it gets to the top of the pond and the light, and they just open up. And I'm just so blessed to have been part of that with you. And not with just you, but so many people. And so thank you. Thank you for being a guest. And I hope that lots of people will find this podcast and they will, especially if they're dealing with any kind of addiction, even if it's not a drug or a substance, even if it's just, you know, I'm addicted to codependency or addicted to victimization or, you know, that law of attraction. I keep attracting more of a lesson that I'm not able to fully recognize. And so I think that they can benefit from reading your book. I mean, I couldn't read your book without crying, like every 5 seconds. I just literally, you don't even know how many times I came this close to calling you just to say, I love you. I love you. You need a hug. I need a hug. I love you. Because to know that somebody went through so much and became such just a beautiful flower to the world. I'm just so proud of you. I feel like a proud mama. So, okay, we're going to end it here. I love you. Don't hang up, okay? And make sure that you send me all those links, but don't hang up yet. We'll talk a little bit after I end the podcast. Thank you again for being a guest, and you're always welcome to come back if you write another book or if you expand and move into another realm, because I don't think we're always where we're meant to go. We're always where we're meant to be, but we're not always where we're going to end up, right? And
I'm
so
excited for sure.
yeah, so wherever you're headed, I want you to come back in the future and talk about it.
Well, of course.
Okay. All right, guys, I'm going to end the recording here and I'll talk to you in a minute. Namaste, guys.